The food noise was constantly thinking about, oh, well, let me get a cinnamon roll or just make them and then eat it. Like, oh, I can eat 2 or 3 of those. That would work. Eat a sandwich later. I feel like it was messy, just messy eating.
How many were you drinking a day before?
7 to 10 K cups a day. That's
Yeah.
the 700 calories. And it's just like, holy smokes. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I go to Starbucks now. It's once a month and I get a small one. That's pretty powerful stuff there. It's pretty cool.
There's a moment that you shared with me that really captured your transformation where it was 2 a.m. while you were working and your brain told you to go get a package of uncooked ramen noodles.
Yeah. So I would just go in the cabinet. Let me just eat this uncooked thing. But then I'm like, no, I don't need that. Let me do something else. I'm going to reroute my brain. Okay. Am I hungry? Or if I'm not hungry, then I need to switch over and do something. So that's when I would get in the drawer and pull out old records that I don't need anymore and just start shredding them.
What would the old Lorrie have done?
Ate the ramen noodles. And then my stomach would have hurt probably an hour later. Then I would have been hungry. You just ate all that. Almost like when you're not paying attention, you eat a whole bag of chips. The old Lorrie would have eaten a lot and then been like, oh man, I feel really guilty about that. And I would have really shamed myself.
But the new Lorrie used her tools and techniques to interrupt the pattern. Do you feel guilty when you eat a breadstick?
No,
That's the best win.
that is 100% the best win. I'm confident now in my food choices.
That's amazing.
My weight had gone down. I had lost 20 pounds.
And tell me about your energy levels. How are those?
Much better. Took a nap every day, even if I wasn't working. So now probably only like once or twice a week. Don't feel as stressed out as much. And also too, you're not hangry a lot. I just prepare better. And being around my kids, you're not as upset as you used to be.
So it sounds like because you're learning how to feel your body, you're able to have more energy and feel good physically. And then you can be a better mom and a better partner
Right.
too. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Lawson, founder of the Bariatric Success Academy. And today I'm joined with Lorrie, who just completed the program and has had really an incredible transformation. What makes Lorrie's story so powerful is that she did all of this while working extremely long overnight shifts from home. So if you're someone that struggles working at home or kind of working in an untraditional environment too, like this is definitely going to be relatable for you. And really one of the hardest schedules to manage nutrition or manage food freedom around as well. So Lorrie, thanks so much for being willing to share your story today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So can you start by just sharing a little bit about yourself, like who you are, what you do, maybe about your family, as much as you're comfortable sharing, and just kind of paint a picture of your life?
Yes, I'm in my late 40s and I had bariatric surgery and not a 9/1 of 2022. And that's hard to believe it's been that long. And I'm a nurse and I work overnight. I've only been doing that almost 2 years. And I have a non-traditional schedule. So I work 3 to 4 days a week on the average. And I, had done really well the first 9 months after my surgery. And then I had gained weight back because, you get kind of not paying attention to what you're eating and just kind of getting lazy and just going back to some old habits. I have a family with 3 kids, an adult daughter, and then one teenager, one preteen. So, and then my husband also had bariatric surgery too. So our schedules align pretty well with our eating. So it's awesome to have that.
Yeah.
So
So tell me a little bit more about your bariatric journey. So you had surgery and you said September 2022. How did things go initially?
So initially everything went well. It was really kind of hard to, pin down what you could eat, but for the most part, that was a lot in the beginning. Or if we went out to eat, which isn't very often, maybe once a month or so, I'd get Coke to drink and then not one Coke, 2 or 3 Cokes. So I've been drinking that a long time. And then before I had surgery, I was drinking 2 to 2.5 liters a day of Diet Coke. So I don't really drink that anymore. Actually, I don't really drink pop hardly at all. Very rare. So then, just kind of slipped, like I said, in some old habits, not really paying attention. Didn't always eat protein first. Like, oh, I didn't really, eat, protein dense food. It was more just like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to get sick. I can eat sugary stuff like, cinnamon rolls and whatnot. Not one, like multiple. So it just became a slippery slope and then slowly gained back about 35 pounds. So when I initially had lost about 70, 75.
Okay. So you had your surgery September 2022. When did the old habits start coming back?
About 9 to 10 months later.
All
And it was
right.
slow at first. Yeah, slow at first, and then, it's like, okay, I stopped tracking, which I never really tracked a lot, but, you just kind of gained kind of insight in what you were eating and things.
Yeah. And which old habits came back for you first?
So drinking the pop, which I've been drinking pop since I was 14. So like I said, I'm in my late 40s. So it's okay, to have it, every once in a while, but it's just not a good habit to pick back up, especially regular, because that just can, make your blood sugar just bounce all over the place. And then I also was experiencing hypoglycemia reaction because I wasn't, again, sticking to the low sugar, intake, and then the protein, and then the just getting lazy, just not really eating, and if I wasn't hungry, I didn't eat, or just I another bad habit I picked up was drinking strawberry Aussies from Starbucks, which is mostly pure sugar, even though I diluted it, but I really, yeah, you're getting your fluid in, but that's really packed with a lot of calories. So then I was making them at home, and come to find out, it was like that was an extra 700 calories to 1,000. So that's just not, again, a good idea. And I was getting short of breath, and just figured I need something. I need to find something or someone that can guide me to, not necessarily always have to track your food, but give you a good foundation to get back to what you know.
Yeah. But let's go back to the timeline. So
So
September 2022, you had your surgery. Old habits
mhm,
started to come back 9 to 10 months later. So now we're at like summer 2023.
yep.
Okay.
Mhm,
The soda, it sounds like a lot of drinks, right? Like a lot of drinks
mhm,
in general, but like sugar cravings, right? And so
yes.
then when did you notice the regain in particular start to come on?
So, probably about a year out
Okay.
after my surgery, and then, and then going to the bariatric surgeon, getting your blood drawn, and then the blood work was fine, but then I would be like, well, just to be honest with you, I did eat a cupcake before I came, and they were like, that's okay, but let's be more mindful of what you're eating. And they didn't really have a lot. And the bariatric surgeon with our team, you don't really see them. You see as nurse practitioners. So again, the guidance was kind of like, oh, just do this and this and this. And it's like, well, that's great for some people, but I need a more intense thing. And the dietitian that we have on our program, it's not, we are not in touch with each other. It makes it a little challenging. So
Yeah. So you didn't feel supported from your surgery
right.
center. And so when you started to regain weight and you noticed it in the fall of 2023, went to your surgery center, got your blood done, kind of started to notice it. And then because we didn't start working together until September 2020. And now it's February 6th, 2026. So walk me through, what did you do between September or the fall of 2023 and us meeting in September 2025?
So I try to, like, kind of cut back a little bit here and there, but it just was like my weight was creeping up, and they kind of noticed it. But again, I was afraid to go to the doctor, so I would just cancel the appointments. And I mean, I stuck to my yearly, but they wanted to see me every 3 months. And I'm like, my schedule really doesn't allow this, which was a total excuse. And I just,
Mm,
if I feel like I'm going to be reprimanded, then I'm like, nope, I'm just going to cancel out and just be done, and just, but, they just, and then my family doctor was extremely supportive. She's like, just kind of watch what you're eating, and just kind of, try to do that. She's not a bariatric physician, but very supportive. I've been with her for 20 years. So,
awesome.
but I just there is support there, but it's limited, I guess. So the other problem was, I just was like, I just got careless. I'm lucky I didn't gain more than, 30, 35 pounds back. It's just very dangerous. Like you said, it's a slippery slope, and it just can go backwards when you
Yeah.
become diabetic, because you can become a type 2 diabetic, because you're, just eating it carelessly, especially Coke. So,
Well, what's interesting is that what it sounds like is all the medical professionals you talk to were telling you to be more mindful of what you were eating, but the main way you were getting in calories was what you were drinking.
correct. Yep.
So
Yep.
it's kind of interesting advice when you think about it that did they also ever tell you like what being more mindful of what you're eating even really meant?
Just making sure you get your protein first, and they kind of guesstimate how much protein you're getting. And to be honest with you, when I started your program and started tracking, because I had been a religious tracker before I had surgery, off and on for 10 years through my fitness pal. And then I was like, oh, you're really not getting enough protein, and then, so you're just not feeling full. And then I think I kind of went to the sweets because it's super easy. Like they're all prepackaged, they're ready to go, and you can just eat them. And then you're eating and your sugar spikes up and then you drop and then you're like, "Oh, well, it's time to eat again." So, and then they always tell us to eat small meals. Well, that's great, but that also contributed. I also am a big grazer too, but you should be doing the protein first and then go from there.
Well, you used to be a big grazer, now you are, which is what
Not
we're going to
anymore.
talk about. Yeah.
Correct.
So take me back to what life looked like when the regain was happening. Like, what was your relationship with food like at that point?
Just it just made me feel happy and then I was, getting that quick dopamine release and just, from eating the sugary food and then, just trying to think what else, like sitting on the couch and just like, oh, let me eat a bowl of cereal instead of putting milk with it. Or, hey, let me just through my work shift is a 12-hour night shift. And I would be like, oh, let me just eat this and let me eat that. And then, you're constantly hungry. And if I wasn't hungry, then I didn't eat. And then I feel like I wasn't making good choices as far as food came to. So
Mm, okay. And then what was the food noise like for you? Like, can you describe what was going on in your head around food?
yeah, I would constantly be thinking about like, "Oh, I'm going to I need to go get I don't really eat candy bars, but, like, I need to go eat something that is sugar filled." It's it's very high on calories. It's not there's no hardly any nutritional value to it.
Mm,
So, the food noise was constantly thinking about, "Oh, well, let me get a cinnamon roll or we make them here at home and then just make them and then eat it." Like, "Oh, I can eat 2 or 3 of those." Like, no, kind of that would work, and then, maybe eat a sandwich later and just it was just kind of like I feel like it was messy, just messy eating.
mm, got it. And, I know working from home at night with full kitchen access, like, how did that impact your eating? I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, but like, what would
Yeah,
happen during slow periods or like, how
I would be up
often were
here in
you?
the pantry, snatching around looking for something that was a quick food like, oh, Skittles or eating, um nerds or whatever I could find in there just to be like, "Oh, yeah, I need this. Yeah, I can justify this." And then you start rationalizing with yourself, "Oh, it's just a little bit. It's not a problem." And then the next time you're eating it again, and then you're like, "Oh my gosh!" Because again, limited food didn't always make me get sick, like as far as dumping syndrome, or it's just the reactive hypoglycemia. So, and that takes a long time for you to recover if you constantly doing that. It just wears you out. So it's just best to get ahead of that if you can. And, that was a big thing. Or I was just, just eating poorly. I can't, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but those were, and I wasn't taking my vitamins religiously either. So, then you're going to become deficient because with being a bypass patient, that's a slippery slope too. So
Yeah. And I know one thing that you were really struggling with too was just being tired all the time, right?
100%. Yes.
Like
No
with
energy, low.
yeah, in addition to like the food noise, the grazing, the boredom eating, because of your shift and because of what you were eating, you were just like exhausted.
All the time.
Yeah. And so I remember like you mentioned in our early work together that you had this thought that like sometimes food just like might not be there later when you got back to it.
Right.
Can
So,
you tell
and it's very interesting because, growing up in a single family home, like with one parent, money was very tight. So, we had to just, there was three of us, like my brother and I and my mom, and it was like, oh, you only can have so much. And then after you eat it, it's gone. No, you can't have it again until next payday, which is 2 weeks away. So now that was my thought going backwards and backpedaling. And that was kind of happening too, even though, we don't have that food scarcity thing anymore. You're just worried like, oh, are the kids gonna eat my food? Well, they don't even eat the same food that I did. So it's your own mind is playing tricks on you and just trying to work with yourself to get out of that situation.
yeah. And so I know you mentioned you went to your bariatric surgeon, your primary care doctor as well. Like, have you ever before working with me, had you ever worked with anyone else, like a coach?
No,
Uh, no. Okay. Why
no.
is that?
Afraid of being judged. I had been thinking about it for a good while. I had never met you before, but I was very attracted to your style, and you seemed to be very in when initially before I met you personally, your videos were very appealing to me because you had been a bariatric patient yourself. You put your struggles out there, and not a lot of people do that. A lot of people hide behind that or they put a facade on. And I like to be with a person that's going to help me to be just be honest with me, because some people, they're not honestly, honest with you. I don't want you to pump me up. I want you to taking criticism is very hard, especially from a complete stranger. But you worked with me, you got me to, trust you and whatnot. And your program is just phenomenal as far as
Oh,
that.
thank you.
You take what you do the intake, and then you do you do you pull a lot of of the low points out, but you also pull out a lot of the high points, which is extremely beneficial to someone, especially when we're very vulnerable. We put our weight back on, and you're not judging us. You're like, okay, we're gonna fix this. You're very gun ho about let's get this together. It's teamwork. Even though I'm done with the program, I still can look at my notes I've taken, or like you said, look at your videos. And if you are not, doing well with it, then you're having a bad day, then go back to the basics of what we were doing. Because like you said in the past, pulse reset doesn't work. And a lot of people, some people that you follow, they did a liquid diet before surgery. I didn't have to do that. So I don't understand how to do that. Like I couldn't drink 2 liquids for 2 weeks. So to me, that is not, a pulse reset isn't going to do nothing. You're not solving the problem. You're not getting to the root cause where you do that.
Mm.
Especially when I told you that I'm like, oh, I eat Skittles. I don't even like Skittles. And you're like, well, what were you doing? It was around Halloween. And then you're like, oh, bingo, it's the dopamine release you need. So now I know what to do when I have food noise. Am I going to be 100% and not feed into that food noise all the time? Probably 1 out of 10 chances I'll probably, give into it once in a while, but it's not going to be every day. And then if it happens, you go back and you're thinking, that quick step, that stop method, like your methods that you taught us.
Yeah. Oh, oh my gosh. You're just like, this is everything you just said is just like the transformation in your mindset,
Right.
right? Like in regards of quick recoveries, understanding you're not going to be perfect and that's okay. And just understanding too that the goal is not to have it never again, it's to be able to control it. And it's essentially what you just articulated. And so, like, when was the moment that you realized something had to change? Like, what was your breaking point?
Before your before your program or during the program?
Before.
Before,
Before.
just I was just like looking at myself and not in those non-scale victories, you're just like I didn't want to weigh myself. I didn't want to, so I was like, I don't really weigh myself, and my clothes were fitting tight, and which I didn't really drop a lot of sizes, which is fine. I'm happy with my results I had initially, but then it's kind of like you're noticing in pictures, all my weight is gained in my abdomen, and I'm like, this is just not making me feel confident anymore. It's really hurting my self-esteem and whatnot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you just the mindset was you're spiraling, you're just gonna be down all the time. With your program, yeah, I might have screwed up, but I might not bounce back right meal, but then, my goal is, yeah, I screwed up maybe 2 meals, whatever, or I grazed, but I'm gonna fix it. Like, okay, it's okay. You did it. It's over with. Let's just get back on track, and we're not gonna criticize and bruise ourselves, bruise your ego, just move along. Just it's okay. It happened. You realized it happened and you just move on. And if you really want that candy bar, if that's what you really feel like you need in this moment, just stop, think about it. Did you have protein or is it really hunger? What is that situation? And I had that the other night when I worked. It was a stressful night, but I'm like, why do I feel like I just need to keep eating, even though it's cheese or I had this? Like, okay, you need to eat something more substantial.
Yeah.
That's why you're thinking about food. And then, you know what I mean? So that is huge.
Well, what's also really interesting about what you just said is I think a lot of people that haven't gone through the training on your brain that you have would be terrified to eat more or to say to themselves, you know what? The real problem is that I didn't eat enough.
Right.
right? And like everyone
Right.
thinks that weight loss is about calories in versus calories out, and it is, but you have to eat enough too.
Right. Because you're just
And
not going to lose weight that you gain back, or you're just gonna be at a stall, and some people don't understand that. It's like, "Oh, up your protein or up this." Well, but what are you eating that's protein based? I could say, "Oh, yeah, I ate a protein bar that was 4 grams of protein," versus what I should have probably eaten to beginning of my day. We'll just say, because I work night shift, we'll just say a piece of lasagna, like, that is protein packed, versus eating something 4 gram because, within an hour, I'm gonna be starving, and that's it's not really a food addiction, it's just you're not making the best choices, and if you really want that stuff, then just kinda, like, do it once or twice a week, just not, like, reward yourself, "Oh, well, hey, I," thinking to myself, like, "Oh, I did really good tonight, I'm gonna eat, I ate all my protein, I'm gonna eat a candy bar," or whatever, that's just once or twice a week is better than daily, so.
yeah, something's better than nothing for sure. And so I know you mentioned you really liked my videos, but like, how did you actually find me? And then what made you decide to actually reach out?
So I saw your videos on Instagram, not really on Facebook, but Instagram, and I just kept going to your thing, and then I thought, okay, I'm gonna reach out, and then I do TikTok too, but I mostly saw you on Instagram, and I really liked your ideas, and I like that you put out the statistics and you put wording in your videos. Like, it's really not your fault. You just need to rewire your brain, and that's really 100% what we need to do. And I needed to learn that. And then reaching out, yeah, I was 100% scared to death, maybe 1,000 times scared to death, but it really worked out, because you're just not sure. I live in Ohio, you live in, Florida. It's kinda like, okay, it's way different, but you really worked with me, and I really appreciate that,
I'm
even though I
curious
had a
if,
weird schedule.
yeah, well, I actually think that's more fun because it's a chat. I mean, I had worked with folks like that before, and I know that was like one concern you had when we first worked together was like whether or not I'd worked with someone like you. Um,
Right,
and but I think it's fun because it's different than the type of person I typically work with.
right.
And for me, that I like that too. It's a hit of dopamine for me. So Lori, you were my hit of dopamine. Um, I'm curious, what made you scared?
Just because I was afraid I was gonna be judged, and I just have
Mm,
had medical trauma in the past, and I am a nurse of 20 some years plus. I always treat my patients with respect, and if I feel this you get that feeling that they are receptive to you because maybe they're just not sure of you, then I'm like, "What can I do to make you more comfortable?" And that's kind of what you did too, and I relate to that. It's very hard to pick somebody or choose somebody. Yes, you're a random person off the internet, but again, I really appreciated you. You were very upfront, and that's what I think a lot of people don't have. They don't have the ability to dig through all the messiness, you know what I mean? Or they don't wanna take on a challenge because 'cause I'm sure my case was not as traditional as most people, but, you were able to come up with some great ideas, and you're like, "Okay, so you're not really eating enough. Okay, what can we do to fix this?" And then you're pulling ideas out of me, and then if I stuck, you're right there to help me. You know what I mean? And if I did need a lot of support one week, when and the next week you needed support, you were right there. And I think
awesome.
that's huge because you don't always get that. You don't always get the support you feel like you need. Your modules that you use, I felt were perfect with the if I didn't have time to watch all of the video, you could watch that workshop and you could see other individuals struggling and be like, "Oh, well, I relate to that." Even though I don't know these people from Adam, I could take the notes and then refer back to those modules. So,
Yeah, totally. And so I feel like you've somewhat answered this question, but I want to answer it kind of point blank. Like, what made you feel like it was the right fit when you joined?
the right fit was because you had an intense program of 16 weeks. It wasn't just 2 months or, it wasn't 3 months. It was for 16 solid weeks, and the flexibility was there. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, "I need you to check in with me daily." And I'm like, no, I don't wanna do that." You were just able to again, the flexibility with your program is what really drew me to your program. And after we talked, you were like, "Okay, you only have to," because sometimes people don't like to do coach calls because 'cause they're just not sure how it's going to do or the vibe or whatever, but, the vibe was there. It was a positive, good vibe, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
totally. I with coaching calls, I do not like doing let's meet every 2 weeks at this set time
Right.
and date. And sometimes you might have something to talk about, sometimes you don't. And so the way
Right.
that I try to structure them is when I build out your roadmap and your bariatric blueprint, I look on the roadmap and I'm like, okay, when is there going to be a time that we need to talk and need to have a conversation just to protect your time, but also mine? And like really like make that a meaningful use of time versus just kind of like a chit chat too.
But you also did a great job too that if I was struggling with something, you're like, "Hey, let's just meet up," even if it's a brief call, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that because your program is not rigid. I don't a lot of people nowadays, you can't do rigid because everybody's all over the place, you know what I mean? It was different with COVID, you had the set times where now you've got, like, the flexibility and everybody's learned how to use Zoom because some people, I'm sure you have clients that are older or just not exposed to technology, and in those workshops, the coach calls that you guys do, I thought that was great. You're like, "Hey, if you're kinda messed up, it's okay. We'll figure it out," so
Yeah, totally. And so what were you hoping to achieve when you first started the program?
to learn how to get enough protein in, even if I didn't weigh it all the time or I needed, different ideas, because I do stick to the same. I could eat the same thing every day for 4 months, and it'd be okay with me. But you gave me a flexibility of, different things to pick or things I never, pardon me, even thought of. Or if you're going out to eat, don't fret about it. Just this is what you should do and whatnot. So you gave
Mm,
me like a roadmap, like you said, of different ideas. And if I was struggling with something, then we figured it out together. It wasn't just like, oh, here's a piece of paper and just kind of go with it. It
yeah,
was like, let's just have this discussion and make sure this is okay. And is this going to work for you? And then we followed up with an evaluation.
yeah, totally. And I know really kind of figuring out your rhythm with food was one
Right.
of the first things we did too. And that is the first step for conquering food noise, emotional eating, or boredom eating, or anything like that. And so, how soon after we started working together did you notice like any kind of change, whether it was like physical, mental, or emotional?
Probably within 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks,
Okay.
because you had the actualization or looking at the data. The data was, the food logs that we were doing. Maybe I wasn't perfect every day, but I had a general idea, and then your weekly report. I didn't really wanna fill it out, but it was a good thing because it didn't always it wasn't always applicable to what I was doing that week, but it was a good guide, and I had told you I've never, did measurements, but they didn't fluctuate a lot, but it gives you an idea, like, even if it didn't make me upset, like, "Oh, well, around my waist, it didn't go down." It's okay, but my weight went down. So,
Yeah.
within the 4 weeks, or excuse me, 4 months, my weight had gone down. I had lost 20 pounds.
Yeah.
So,
And so one of the first things we worked on was getting you into a structured eating system that actually worked with like your rotating schedule. So what was that like?
it was, you just had me eat every 3 to 4 hours and just making sure you're eating that protein first, and then, a night shift, and then if I wasn't hungry, because sometimes I had substituted caffeine for, um, caffeine, then you make sure you just take a couple bites. And then and on my off days, then just kinda making sure you eat at least every 4 hours, just to make sure it's got a good amount of protein in it. Because again, like I said, it was simple. Or I learned how to make pancakes with, non-traditional stuff. I was like, "Oh, let me put some protein powder in it." It actually wasn't that bad. So, I've called them powerful pancakes, or, um, or like you had mentioned, hey, okay, so especially around the holidays, you're like, I told you I've always had eaten batter, and I'm like, I need to not do that. Or if I do, fine, one scoopful is fine, like a little bit, but not scoops. And so you gave me a great tool to use, and I did it, and then put an extra protein powder, non-flavored, into my Greek yogurt, and then eat that, and then that worked.
Yeah.
I wasn't the craving the sweets. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah. And I'm curious, did anyone you ever worked with before, like your nutritionist or doctor, ever like build a plan around your specific schedule before?
Yeah. She told
Yeah.
me to eat. The nutritionist, the bariatric surgeon, again, you don't see him, you see his NP, and then she's just kind of asking you general questions, and then you're done in 10 minutes. Go get your blood drawn. And then the nutritionist, I only met with her in my pre-op stuff. And then she's like, "Oh, we'll have a plan for you to eat roasted vegetables." Ma'am, I don't eat vegetables. Again, that's fine. That's my choice. I mean, that's fine. I like salad, but I'm not gonna I'm not gonna eat roasted vegetables, ma'am. I'm sorry. Just respectfully not. So, and you're like, okay, well, you like this, that, and that, but I did, kind of branch out a little bit and eat different things through working with you. So
Yeah. How did it feel to actually like have structure that fit your life?
it felt empowering because you could depend on what it was going to be. And then you also gave me a list of different things that you could do because I liked on the go stuff, so you're like, okay, and I had always done that reinforced, making sure I had food with me. But then I was like, okay, if I'm not going to be home, then because we had soccer in the fall with the kids, making sure I had that food with me and what would be beneficial. And, and I usually ate a lot of bread. Well, now I don't really eat a lot of bread. I usually eat wraps, which is better for you. And then, just making sure that I don't sit around and snack. Like when I watch TV, I don't have like a bowl of popcorn in front of me like I used to, or
Mm.
the caffeine. I changed over to like the Crystal Light packs with caffeine in them. And then instead of drinking the strawberry acid. So the strawberry acid, I probably only drink a couple times a week now, 2 to 3 max. And then that's
Yeah.
it. So
And how many were you drinking a day before?
7 to 10 K cups a day. And that's
Yeah.
the 700 calories. And it's just like, holy smokes. Yeah, that's a lot. Or if I
Yeah.
go to Starbucks now, it's once a month and I get a small one. Yeah.
So you went from making it 7 to 10 times a day
Mhm,
to 2 to 3 times a week
mhm,
in
yep,
just 4 months.
mhm. Yeah, it's pretty powerful stuff there. It's pretty cool.
I mean, what do you feel like? What do you feel like was the process to get you to do that?
I think after I was documenting on my app how many on the food log to see it gives you a visual picture of how much you're actually eating and how many calories it's actually taking. I could do the math in my head, but I really didn't pay attention. Oh, well, it's losing flavor, so I just drink more and more of it. So,
Yeah.
but the actual data that you had to see, like, oh, that is a lot, you know,
But why'd you care now?
because I wanted to see, I wanted it cared now because I wanted to see what the data was showing me. Like, I collected the data, I wanted to see what it was doing, and this is how it impacted me. So, I do drink caffeine, but not as much as I probably did before I started the program because because it makes me thin. It was a realization that it's really making me tired. It's more tired. So I just drink more water or non-flavored, non-caffeinated water, with I have no problem getting my fluid intake in. Probably drink close to 2 gallons of fluid a day.
Yeah, you drink a
So
lot of water.
I do, but I feel satisfied. And then, like you said, are you really thirsty or are you hungry? So just kind of like making sure. And I was really bad at drinking in between, during meals. So that's a bad
Mm.
habit because you're just flushing all that out. And it's like, oh. But again, you're collecting the data and you're looking and seeing the realization. I think that's the key word. I knew that it was probably bad, but I didn't have that data to back it up.
Yeah. But now that you saw the data, because you mentioned before we started working together, like you just kind of felt lazy and like you didn't really care. But why'd you care now?
I care now because I've lost weight. And I feel that it was since it's not like it's been 4 years since my surgery, but you're just kinda, like, not in that honeymoon phase, this is real life now. So, you can
Mm.
apply what I've learned with you to you as long as you're getting 80% of your protein, you have that 20%, 10 to 20% of flexibility. That was huge for me to learn that. So, you're not going a lot of people don't even know I had surgery. So, you know, when I go somewhere and I'm in an environment that I don't want to tell anybody that I can just eat. And then I know in the back of my mind, like, oh, just a little piece of cake is fine or whatever, but you really should hit that protein first kind of thing. You're just kind of like, you've reinforced what I should have been doing all along, but now I have the tools that if I get in a social situation or whatnot, I know what to do. I didn't have that
Mm.
before. I kind of guessed. But now I have
Yeah,
the guidance and I'm more confident. That's 100% the difference.
got it.
Confidence. Confidence.
Yeah. Let's talk about the dopamine menu. Because I
Okay.
think this was one of your biggest game changers for you. Can you explain like what that is, how it worked for you?
So the dopamine thing I had told you going back to the around Christmas or around Halloween, I had told you I was eating Skittles and just kind of looking for something to eat real fast just to fill that sugar void. And so you said, "Well, why did you pick the Skittles?" And I said, "I don't know, just wanted something sweet." And then I had explained to you and you're like, "Oh, okay. And then when is this happening?" It was only happening when I'm working and we don't have any calls. Sometimes we have calls back to back. Sometimes I have a 3-hour lag, which I'm very fortunate, but I can do other things related to work. So we made a dopamine list and you said that that dopamine list is going to substitute for that food noise slash feeling you need that junk food. So, that would involve like speed cleaning in between calls, like, wipe the refrigerator down, or I have a big filing cabinet next to my desk in my little office that I can just rearrange that, just take a drawer out at a time and then just even if so you're not overwhelmed, just do it for 10 minutes or, just pick different ideas on this thing, but don't do it. Try to do it not in random order or try to do it in random trying to do it randomly, but I don't always do that, but or I found a bin in the closet, and I'm like, "Oh, these have, like, pictures from 30 years ago, I need to go through them." So, just kinda, like, started doing that. So, even though if I play on a game on my phone, that didn't give me enough attention because I have ADHD, so I need to keep multiple things going at the same time. But that has really helped a lot because even if I'm not working and I'm like, "Wait, I feel food noise coming on. I'm just sitting here watching TV." So I just got up and I took a little walk around, the kitchen foyer, and that really helped.
Yeah. I think what's great about the dopamine menu is it's pre-deciding what to do that's actually going to fill what you're really needing in that moment, right?
Right. Mhm.
And so then it's just up to you to pull it out and pick something, right? And it sounds
Right.
like your home's a lot more organized now
It is. It is very
as
much
a
so. "Oh, let me
result.
get rid of this," or "Let me go through the mail and get rid of these, papers I don't need. I'm just gonna shred them."
Yeah. Yeah. And I was going through our notes and our messages, and there's a moment that you shared with me that I think really captured your transformation where it was 2 a.m. during while you were working, and your brain told you to go get a package of uncooked ramen noodles.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, so I would just go in the cabinet, I would like, "Oh, yeah, let me just eat this uncooked thing." But then I'm like, "No, I don't need that. Let me do something else. I'm gonna reroute my brain and like, okay, am I hungry or am I if I'm not hungry, then I need to switch over and do something." So that's when I would get in the drawer and, pull out old records that I don't need anymore and just start shredding them. But yeah, that's
Yes.
100%.
What would the old Lori have done?
Ate the ramen noodles, and then my stomach would have hurt probably an hour later, like, and then I would have been hungry. Like, okay, you just ate all that. Almost like when you're not paying attention, you eat a whole bag of chips, like, you know. So yeah, the old Lori would have eaten a lot of would have ate it and then been like, "Oh man, I feel really guilty about that," and I would have really shamed myself.
Mm.
So
But the new Lori used her tools and techniques to interrupt the pattern,
right,
ask herself, am I hungry?
right,
Sounds like I'm not. So let's go do something that's actually going to fill what I need.
right.
Is that right? Okay,
Yep.
cool. And we also did some deeper work around like emotional eating and triggers, like with what you're comfortable sharing. Like, can you share like what you discovered about yourself through that process? Like, was there a trigger that surprised you or one you didn't expect?
Yes. Going back to the emotional eating, like, going back to my childhood about it would be like, let's my mom would make, like a 9 by 13 pan of, let's say Rice Krispies and then 1 row for her, 1 row for my brother, and 1 row for I. And then, of course, my brother's trying to like, "Oh, I'll give you money for that." Like, "No, that's mine," kind of situation. So after, deep diving and figuring out, oh, well, I understand now why I feel that, somebody's going to eat that. It's like nobody's going to eat my food because my kids eat totally separate what I eat. So no, it's not, it's going to be there when I come back for it. So, and then I have the ability to get in my car and go get more of it. So it's not a situation where it's going to be scarcity that I thought that I had. The situations are different now. I've realized that like you can get more of that, So let's
Yeah.
say I want something, sweet, and it's like, okay, I can just have a little bit of it and I'm okay because there's going to be more for when I go back. And if there isn't, it's not the end of the world. I can do something else. I can find something else.
Yeah. So how did understanding why you were reaching for food change things?
Because I actually had a conversation with my mom about it recently, and kind of we had a discussion about like, hey, I don't know if you realize this, and I'm not blaming you, mom. I'm just kind of like just wanted to show you this piece of information that I had discovered about myself. And she's like, well, I understand, but I disagree with you. I'm like, that's okay. But I feel better because of the situation. I understood, uh, I understand why I felt like that we had a scarcity of food but we didn't. We really didn't. It was just the rationing of the sweets. You know what I'm saying? We had plenty of food to eat. It's just the rationing. It's like that's the part where I'm like, don't eat my food, with my kids and husband. But it was a real
Yeah.
big realization.
Awesome. And so what role did all of like the coaching calls and the accountability and messaging, like what role did all of that play in your progress? Because I know like you made a physical binder, like printing out your
I did.
blueprint, like yeah,
I
all the
do. I have that.
documents,
So if
all
I
that
have
stuff.
anything, yeah, and if I don't have access to that, that to me was like I was able to watch the videos and then take some notes and then it stuck. Maybe not everything stuck, but I have those major key points that I can go back to. And the coaching call, if I took notes, then I have that in my binder that I can go back to refer to, especially if, you do get kind of sidetracked and you do get tied up in life with your children and whatnot, and you kind of forget about what you learned, then I can go back to it and go, "Oh, that's a refresher. Okay, you kind of slipped down a little bit. Let's just get back on track. It's not a problem. It's right here. Or accessible on the main level here versus it being in the basement." You know what I mean? The coaching calls, since you record them all, like if I started getting discouraged or I'm like, wait, I feel overwhelmed. No, you don't have to feel overwhelmed. You can go back to those calls and you can watch the videos. So I think
Mhm.
that's a beneficial tool that you can use even if you get away like 6 months from now, the program I'm completed, if I feel like I'm need to be reinforced those positive behaviors, then I can go back to what I've learned and I have my binder.
Yeah. I have people from like 2 years ago that go back and watch the calls, you
Yep.
know? Yeah. And so I know you've said a lot, but if you had to sum up, how do you feel like your relationship has with food has changed? Let me say that again. If you had to sum up, like, how has your relationship with food changed since starting the program?
It's evolved. It is to me it's always been there. The food is fuel, but it's really more important to eat the food that's going to fuel my body the most. So, yes, you can eat a candy bar, but is that really gonna your thought process is a quick thinking tool. Is that gonna fuel my body? Or have you had enough food today and you feel that you need that? I'm just gonna stop and I'm gonna think about it, and I'm gonna really proceed with caution, as you had taught us. And you're just thinking about what you're putting in your body just to make sure it's gonna fuel you and it's going to carry you throughout the day to make sure you can make good executive functioning decisions. That's 100% what you're teaching us. So,
Yeah.
but it's evolved. It's not that food's an enemy anymore. And if you do make that choice to go off the grid and you want to have an off day, that's up to you. That's totally your freedom choice with food. Is
Yeah.
that hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, you're not
Totally
stuck
makes sense.
you're not stuck to a thing, and you might not want to log your food every day, but you do probably need to keep track of it at least once or twice. Unless you're like myself, you eat the same thing, then you know that you're getting enough.
Yeah.
But
What would you describe your relationship with food like before the program?
messy. Messy, I didn't really care, I might have taken care, like, one day and the next day I'm like, I don't have enough energy to worry about it, so I'm just gonna
Mhm.
just eat this." But, now it's like, "Okay, am I eating enough protein for that meal?" And then, if I'm still hungry later, is it because you're had hunger or is it really that you're really physically hungry? That differentiation between the 2.
Mm. Do you feel like you knew when you were hungry beforehand, or when you knew when you were physically hungry versus had hunger, et cetera?
Probably 50% of the time because half the time I would just run on empty. I would like sometimes I do it now, but not as often. Like if we're going out to eat within an hour of going, then I'm getting up, then I understand. But if I don't and I have multiple appointments that day, then I make sure that I have a protein bar with me that has enough protein in it. And I know that's going to hold me for at least 2 hours. And then I have a plan in place. Not that I don't have a plan. Like if when you run errands, like, okay, wait a minute, you need to not be going through the Starbucks line and getting junk, or you don't need pop cake because that's not going to help you. That's only going to drop your sugar fast. So
Yeah.
now it's different because I plan a little bit more ahead than I used to.
Yeah. Before we started working together, did you ever think changing your relationship with food, or like achieving food freedom, was possible?
No. Because I didn't have any tool or I didn't understand what food noise was, but not a lot of people I'm around have had bariatric surgery, except my husband, but he didn't have food noise. His was, a lot of us have surgery for different reasons. But I didn't really know what food noise was, nor did I really pay attention to I gave into it. If I wanted it, I just ate it. Now it's kind of like stop and think kind of thing.
Okay. What does food freedom mean to you now?
That I can pretty much eat anything I want with caution because is this going to, again, fuel my body or is it going to make me feel like crap in an hour? So that's
Yeah.
kind of like how I think, a lot of the foods, the sweets have gone to the wayside now. I don't really worry about that. I'm like, is this going to is this me eating this? Is this going to help me today? I still eat
Yeah.
junk food, yes, but not nearly what I did or slider food.
Yeah. Before we start working together, did you trust yourself around food?
Probably a very minute amount, very
Okay.
minimal.
Do you trust yourself now?
Yes.
Sweet.
And if I'm not sure, then I just try to proceed with caution. And then if I need reinforcement, like I said, I can go back to my videos of our calls or my binder.
Yeah. And what is the food noise and grazing? Like, what does that look like now?
Like I've had it occasionally, like probably once or twice in the last 2 or 3 weeks, but not
Oh,
like it was before where I'm sitting on the couch eating, we're watching TV and I'm eating like a gobs amount of popcorn or, um, like ordering cereal from Amazon and just eating it. Just if I do eat it, then it's like that's gonna be your meal. And then if you're hungry in 2 hours, just eat. Don't punish yourself like, "Oh, you just ate that bowl of cereal, like, the Special K protein cereal. Okay, well, you ate that, so we're gonna punish ourselves thinking that I have to wait 3 hours to eat again." If I'm hungry, I'm gonna eat, to make sure that I don't, like, pass out. Where about before I program, I would have probably like, punish myself and be like, "Okay, well, you gotta wait 3 or 4 hours to eat. You just keep drinking fluids because you need to subside that." No, that's not the thing anymore. We're not self-punishing anymore.
yeah. Because that doesn't help.
It
And
doesn't. It
so,
just makes you snowball.
yeah. So, the opposite of punishment, are there any wins or results you're especially proud of?
The wins are I can, again, get through the day without the wins are that you can be around food, even if it's stress food it would have been 6 months ago versus now, it's like, "Oh, well, I could be around that. I'm not gonna like when you go to Olive Garden, you're not gonna eat 6 breadsticks. If I choose to eat 2 breadsticks, then I'm gonna make sure I matched up with protein." It's just not that teetering, tottering like, "Oh, well, I can eat 4 breadsticks, and then I'll just take the food home and I'll eat it later." Well, that's not gonna do you any good. Just eat 1 breadstick and then just do that. But you're not I'm trying not to compromise with myself. Just if you want the breadstick, just eat it, but you have to follow the protein.
Yeah.
And you don't have to eat the salad as a punishment.
Do you feel guilty when you eat a breadstick?
No.
That's
Nope.
the best win.
That is 100% the best win. I'm confident now in my food choices.
Yeah. That's amazing. And tell me about your energy levels. How are those?
Much better, and even though I work night shift, you're always tired all the time, but I take less naps than I had been, you know what I mean? I probably took a nap every d day, even if I wasn't working, so now it's probably only, like, once or twice a week versus 4 times a week, when on my days off.
Yeah. That's amazing. And I know you mentioned like you've lost 20 pounds, and I know previously you mentioned like you've dropped, you're down to size and clothing. You also mentioned previously like no shortness of breath on the stairs too, right?
100%. Right. Right. Or doing activities, I don't lift weights. I never really did any of that stuff, but I just make sure I get up and walk around, just making sure you're getting up and moving. It doesn't have to be a specific thing. Just move, 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 move. Because you
Yeah.
do have a sedentary job. So you do get kind of like in that lazy spell. So it's like, okay, I'm just going to go over here and get that boost of energy cleaning the bathroom real quick.
Yeah. Cool. I'm almost done with all my questions, I promise.
No, you're fine.
Um, how has this transformation impacted like the rest of your life? Whether it's like I know you mentioned you're really confident with food now, but like what about general confidence or even like your family too?
So they've noticed that I don't feel as stressed out as much. And also too, you're not hangry a lot. They're like that hanger that, because I'm waiting, like, oh, I need to wait because we're having family dinner in 2 hours or 3 hours. I don't really do that as much as I had done prior to our coaching time together because even if I just eat like a protein bar, even if it's a small one, I know it's going to hold me over for 2 hours and it'll get me through the hump. You're just preparing. I just prepare better. And being around my kids, they're just not like, well, you're not as upset as you used to be, kind of thing.
Mm. So it sounds like because you're learning how to feel your body, you're able to have more energy and feel good physically. And then you can be a better mom and a better partner
Right.
too. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And so obviously, like the program is not cheap, right? So it's an investment. But what would you say to someone who's maybe never spent money on themselves, or maybe it's been a while since they did?
To me, this was important to do for myself. I don't do a lot for myself. It all goes towards my kids or my husband or energy towards other things. And you are investing in you're just taking an extra step to help us to realize that our surgery was not that it didn't make us lazy, but it can make you not pay attention and you're just making us being accountable in the moment. So you're just getting us back to where we really need to be there. You're giving us tools to make us successful. And again, if it's not working or if I'm like, oh, Jessica, I'm really not relating to that tool you gave me, I would can you kind of divert me somewhere else? Yes, you automatically readjust the programs to where we need to be. It's not rigid. That's 100% people need to know. It's not rigid. You are very workable with, you know what I'm saying? You're a great coach and you're very easy to work with. That's huge. You're easy to work with and you're adjusting the program to making it tailored to every different individual you're working with because not any of your clients of yours are the same. I know you said you've worked with nurses in the past and I know they've been night shift, but not probably work from home or whatever. But again, that is huge because as nurses, we have to tailor our care towards our patient. And to me, I think that you do a phenomenal job switching and tailoring the program to us. You know what I mean? So that's a huge win.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And so, what would you say to someone who's maybe watching this right now and maybe they're experiencing regain and they're feeling ashamed or feeling like they failed and
Okay.
they're struggling with food? Like, what advice would you give to them?
It's really hard to be vulnerable. I will tell you that to especially a complete stranger, but you are going to be okay. And if you just kind of gently trust Jessica to maybe you can just say, "These are my, like, minimal." I can give you a little bit of information as they work with you, they can let their guard down because, I understand that they probably feel shame and everything. But as they learn to work with your program, I learned to become more vulnerable because that was huge hard for me because that I would miss appointments with you and you're like, "Okay, let's just keep it up." But you were never criticizing. And to me, that's huge. So I would tell somebody that's regaining weight, it is not the end of the world. It is experience. It will happen, and it may happen again in 5 years for any of us. But just know that you have Jessica in your court. She is going to do what she can to make you successful, and she's going to hear you not just one time. She's going to hear you with each of your struggles. Even if you have to go slow, just say, "This is the pace I can go to," and then she'll work with you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. And is there anything else about your transformation that you want people to know?
It wasn't easy, I'll tell you that, but It wasn't easy and you may not feel like doing everything, but it's really for your benefit. Jessica doesn't get any benefit out of it if you do your, morning and weekly snaps or, your snapshots or if you're not logging your food. And I just told her, like, I didn't log my food today, but it's okay. I still paid attention. She doesn't expect perfectionism. She expects you to show up. That's the main thing. Show
Yep.
up in any version you can give her, just respectfully is all I would pass along.
Yeah, 100%. And because perfection's not the goal.
Yeah,
Perfect.
nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect. And I think like diet culture, all of that teaches you to be perfect or else you're a failure.
Right.
And
That's not what you're
honestly,
teaching.
yeah, not at all. Like, I think sometimes people come to me and they might be going on a trip or a vacation soon and they're like, oh, let's wait till after vacation. I'm like, actually, no.
Right. And they don't
Let's
understand that. And that's what you told us through the program. Like, no, especially Christmas week, this is the best time to dive into this. And I want you guys to think about XYZ. And you're like, I just can't. Okay, well, you got to pull it out of somewhere. So you got to pull that emotion out. Even you don't want to. You need to pull that out because this is the best time. If you're in a low, you will figure it out. Like, that's what's going to help you to become more successful. It's not going to be 100%. But again, showing up 80% of the time is going to be better than nothing.
oh yeah. Or even 50% of the time.
Right.
Like
100%.
something is better than nothing for sure. Awesome. Well, Lori, thank you so much. Like, truly, thank you so much for sharing your journey today. Like, when I think
Absolutely.
about where you started, grazing through the slow periods, the food noise running nonstop, and where you are now, someone super confident with their food freedom, completely neutral feelings around food, and just a toolbox that you really trust completely. Like,
Right.
that transformation is exactly why I do what I do.
Right.
And
100%.
your story proves that even with the most challenging schedule, sustainable change is possible, but only when you're ready
Right.
to take that step and ready to address like what's happening up here, right?
Right.
Not just what you're eating, what's on your plate too. So,
And the food noise is is trying to trick you where you're trying to like stop that. And you're like, okay, stop, stop, stop. Let's divert that. And that's helping. That was what helps.
yeah. So for anyone that's watching who's tired of the cycle, to experience regain and feel stuck, like Lori's story shows what's possible with the right support. So thanks so much for watching.
You're
Remember,
welcome.
like surgery affects your stomach, not your brain too.